Dear St. Johners and new friends, these are strange times. I am the Reverend Mitra and I am the minister of St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church in Cincinnati, and I have always said that you, the people who come to worship, are what makes worship special. When we gather, there is something that emerges among us that is larger than any individual. It calls us to our best selves. I think this is what sometimes is called the Holy Spirit, or I've heard other traditions use other names, but there's no denying that in some way when we get together, there is a presence that transcends our individual lives and calls us into a beloved community. For me, I just think of it as a way that we hallow the space between us. Right now, because we are concerned about limiting the spread of COVID-19, we are not able to join together in one place. And still, I think it is possible to hallow the space among us, even when that space is defined by social distancing. So thank you for being here as part of a loving, if scattered, community. And we will begin by lighting a chalice. If you are at home and would like to light a candle, or if you have a chalice, you are welcome to do that. If you have a copy of our hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, or the Gray Hymnal, this is reading number 459. If you know these words by William Schultz, please say them with me. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. Reading this, I think of what it means to practice the fragile art of hospitality now. And I think of how we might hold the whole world in our hands. And I am so very grateful that St. John's has the resources and the talent to get a video like this posted for those who want to engage with church, even though we are not able to be in the same place. So we're trying a new thing. We are learning better how to communicate online, to use new tools to help us see each other and hear each other and be able to honestly say that I am glad that you are part of my life, that you are part of my community. And together we can still learn and serve, and we can share the worries and name out loud the blessings of this living. Which brings us to the subject of today's message. The Reverend Forrest Church once wrote, "Unitarian Universalists are neither a chosen people nor a people whose choices are made for them by theological authorities, ancient or otherwise. We are a people who choose." I think about that line, we are a people who choose, and I love that. It reminds me of James Luther Adams's work on the concept and the promise of being a free church made up by people who come together first and foremost of our own free will. Adams was a 20th century Unitarian Universalist theologian who played with the idea and the implications of that freedom and the value of what it means to be church. And church for him, and I most sincerely hope for us too, is not just about being with people who are just like us. It's not about me seeking people who are just like me. Rather, church is about finding community in people who span the breadth of humanity. If we could find a place to meet and bring our diversities freely and honestly knowing that we will not be of one mind, then we can begin the work of being of one heart. choosing to enter a shared world, choosing to bring our own talents and gifts to help create that world, is most basically an act of the heart. Making community together is best done with love. But choosing also has something of the inevitable about it. Sometimes I think we are not as free as we imagine ourselves to be. As people in a religious tradition, we are inheritors of many things, beautiful and good histories, mythologies and theologies, and some problematic and downright destructive ways of being and doing. The great challenge of churchness, of covenantal church, is to find ways to practice covenant while casting off the inheritance, the temptation to think that who we are, however we define that, is the best or only way to be. At the same time, we do want to keep the parts of our tradition that compel us to seek and serve the good. So in this little short time we have together, I am not even going to try to define that. I'm not going to try to define what is good any more than I would try to stand here and define God for you. But I will tell you a fish story. Some of you know I keep fish. Well, recently I started a new tank, and that takes time. So while that tank was setting up, I had been visiting a fish store, and I had chosen a lovely little betta. I mean, just a really pretty little white fish with a little bit of blue markings, healthy and colorful and feisty as all get out. Just a gorgeous little fish. So when the time came and the tank was ready, I go to the fish store to get the fish that I had chosen freely, of my own free will. I go in, you know, bettas are kept in little cups. I go in, I pick up this little cup, and I'm gonna buy this fish and go home with my lovely little perfect feisty fish. And I hold up the cup, and I can see right past the cup, I can see that sick betta that's been sitting on the shelf since I started looking, the one with the most of his tails, fins gone, the one that's kind of floating at the top of the water, the one that's marked at a discounted price. And as my head is saying, I am going to choose a healthy fish, and I'm going to pay full price, and I'm going to have this lovely little feisty, healthy fish, my hand is setting her down and reaching for this sick fish. And that's when I gave in to being who I am. And I walked out with my 75% off discounted fish whose fins were almost rotted off and who couldn't swim down in the tank at all. He kind of bobbed at the top. And he is getting better. And I am happy that I let go of my idea that I could choose to be other than I am. Sometimes we all just choose as we must. Giving into integrity that way has its own rewards, even if we fight it to almost the very end. This past week, my kid said something about being disappointed that church was called off. Aha, I said, we were in the car, and I'm like, aha, I gotcha. You're going to miss church, aren't you? And he said, no, not at all. But I will miss the time before church, and I will miss the time after church, because the people at our church don't have to think alike, and I like the conversations I have with them. So more than opening the doors to the building, more than potlucks or the good treats at coffee hour, this is the essence of the fragile art of hospitality. This choosing to be together across all our differences is the beginning of covenant. It's not the end. It's not the end. Covenantal work, it's complicated, it's long, and it means that you have to come back and be vulnerable and open again and again. But this is an essential first step. Does that seem like a strange thing to be talking about when the COVID-19 pandemic has us not being together? Maybe. But maybe this is an invitation to find other ways to share of ourselves. For example, we're going to try to have a virtual coffee hour on Sundays during the shutdown, because we expect that some of you will want to check in with folks like we would on any other Sunday. The coffee hour isn't supposed to be structure time, it's just time to visit, and we will try to make that possible online using new tools. You can check out our website for more information. Part of our work as church has everything to do with caring for the gathered body that is church, in addition to caring for the individuals. As individuals, our risk for illness varies, but as a gathered community, we all share the risk. Choosing to be a part of church means casting your lot with everyone else. And sometimes we make the choice we are compelled to make. So we choose to hold the whole world in our hands, taking what gentle responsibility for communal health we can, acting with loving kindness, finding a way to honor each other's presence and build up the beloved community. In peace, friends, until we meet again.